Hi everyone, my name is Shannon Cox, and today I'm going to be discussing how Gap Incorporated can improve its pay equity processes and further strive to improve diversity inclusion efforts in years to come. The topics I will be discussing in my presentation today include the history of Gap's diversity and inclusion efforts, as well as my personal position statement on the 3 criteria that I believe Gap must improve upon in order to achieve success in this area. I will then analyze Gap's current efforts and suggest recommendations for how Gap can improve its pay equity processes and diversity and inclusion as a whole. Ever since its founding in 1969, Gap Inc. has been committed to its diversity and inclusion efforts. Founders Don and Doris Fisher opened their first store as equal partners during a time where few female business leaders even existed. And as of 2014, Gap Inc. became the first Fortune 500 company to announce that it pays female and male employees equally for equal work, on average across all of its locations. The company has been able to achieve such success and recognition by pushing to eliminate equal pay barriers through fostering an environment with role models, female representation, mentorship and sponsorship, and flexible family-friendly practices. Gap Inc. has continued to break the glass ceiling and lead the way toward equal pay and gender equality in business, and they are not done yet. Although Gap Incorporated has an exemplary track record for equal pay, they can continue to improve their pay equity processes and further strive to improve diversity and inclusion efforts by expanding on their cultural practices and policies to eliminate equal pay barriers, having more female representation on the board of directors, and embracing the next generation employees and customers, regardless of not only gender identity, but race, nationality, age, marital status, sexual orientation, disability, religion, and socioeconomic background. There are multiple factors that inhibit women from entering full-time positions, and it's important that Gap consider each of these equal pay barriers when trying to maintain an inclusive work environment. Gap Inc. has already paved the way towards equal pay in the workplace, and Gap Inc. has to work to eliminate unconscious bias through providing leaders with pay data for their teams annually, including market-relevant pay ranges for each role in each geographic region. When providing leaders with this pay data, the team that oversees pay at Gap will include criteria and filters to help managers make informed decisions. Gap has ensured there is no meaningful gender or wage gap globally by conducting a pay analysis to find the pay ratio between male and females, controlling for levels and measurable factors for all employees. Their analysis has resulted in statistically validated findings that Gap has no significant gender wage differences. Also, eliminating performance ratings in HQ and distribution call centers has helped Gap to combat gender biases from influencing employee ratings. Also, one of their largest business resources groups is Gap Women in Leadership. Comprising of over 800 male and female members, the group helps make female employees feel that they are en route to leadership, as well as offers them support for important topics like flexibility, pay, and mobility. This environment has granted employees access to promotions, the ability to work independently and take risks, as well as encouragement of salary negotiations for women. Gap has commissioned several flexible and family-friendly practices, including the phase-in, phase-out program. This program allows employees to temporarily reduce their work hours before, during, or after maternity or family leaves of absence. Several U.S. Gap Incorporated departments have also elected to participate in a results-only work environment, a model that grants employees the ability to work when and where they want, given they achieve expected business results. Results from implementing this model have included higher job and life satisfaction levels. Lastly, Gap Inc. has supported employees who are parents and caretakers by offering several resources that can help eliminate work-life conflicts. Resources for U.S. employees include free registration at care.com, 10 subsidized backup child care visits per employee per calendar year, and preferred access to daycare from one of the many Gap Inc. partner centers. While many of the previous practices I just listed help to combat equal pay barriers, there are still areas of improvement that Gap Inc. must address in order to consider themselves inclusive. Gap publishes the company's compensation practices on Gap Web, allowing employees to have access and understanding of current pay practices. However, employees can't see specific pay ranges unless their managers choose to provide them with that information. This approach can weaken trust between employees and managers, as having pay range information inaccessible to low-level employees can contribute to a divide in the organization. Keeping this information from employee view can make it seem that Gap Inc. has a reason to hide pay data from their employees. Employees will begin to question if pay practices are as equal as Gap Inc. claims them to be. Additionally, Gap prides itself on having a culture with traditionally feminine leadership characteristics. Characteristics to describe this culture include collaborative, team relationship driven, values driven, and nice and friendly. Labeling these characteristics as traditionally feminine feeds into the unconscious bias that women are expected to be agreeable and nice in a workplace setting. While I believe that curating a culture with these characteristics is smart, Gap needs to steer away from viewing them as solely feminine. It can pressure female employees to act a certain way that society expects them to act. While females choose to collaborate and work in teams, other females are competitive, and Gap Inc. should not put genders into a specific box based on societal norms. En route to solving work-life conflicts, former Executive Vice President of Global Talent and Sustainability, Bobby Silton, instilled a 3-tier escalation policy. This policy holds that employees get an email if something is not urgent, a text if something's somewhat urgent, and a call if it needs immediate attention. However, this is not a company-wide policy, and it is used only by Silton. Gap is doing employees a disservice by not implementing this flexible policy across the company in all departments. Flexible time offered to employees is currently dependent on the manager's working styles. This causes organizational inconsistency regarding flexible work practices, as some managers may be less flexible than others. Both male and female employees will be less likely to advocate for the company and reach their full career potential if Gap does not implement consistent policies regarding flexible work time. In addressing flexible work hours, managers should also understand that work-home boundaries do exist. Though technology grants employees the ability to access work-related information 24/7, this does not mean that Gap should expect a higher level of performance from employees when they are completing work from home. Due to the current global pandemic, Gap Inc. must consider the many distractions that employees, specifically mothers, will face when working from home. Many children are currently completing schoolwork online, and parents are facing challenges when trying to complete work from home while also making sure their child stays focused in their online classes. Gap Inc. should strive to update existing child and elderly care services. Though offering free registration to care services and preferred access to Gap Incorporated partner centers helps working mothers and caretakers, these services are not free, nor are they as easily accessible as resources that other companies have created. It is also important to address female representation at Gap. Having female leaders can often bring diverse perspectives for an organization and help them to outperform organizations that lack females in senior roles. Data from the International Monetary Fund validates that the more women in senior managerial positions and in corporate boards, the more profitable firms are. Gap Inc. has considered the benefits of having female leaders, as founders Don and Doris Fisher had senior women making decisions and setting the tone for employees from the very beginning. As of 2016, 53% of Gap Inc.'s leadership team were women, and so were 80% of brand presidents. These statistics have helped to build a culture in which women feel valued and confident in promotional opportunities at Gap. However, Gap does not have equal representation of women on the board of directors, where women only comprise of 27% of members. Gap needs to have more representation of women on the board because this will ensure that women at the lower ranks fare better in terms of representation and wages. While Gap should be proud that they have an above-average representation of women in leadership positions, this success will only get them so far. The board of directors at an organization is there to represent shareholder interests, while also making decisions dealing with hiring, policy changes, and compensation. Females will not feel adequately represented at Gap, nor will they trust the board unless those representing them also understand what it's like to be a woman in business. When it comes to embracing the next generation of employees, Gap has utilized their Diversity and Inclusion Council to lean in on big issues from racially motivated shootings to discriminatory bills against transgender people. While the company looks ahead at cultural expectations and business practices to stay progressive tomorrow, it's important they do encompass the magnitude of what a diverse and inclusive workplace looks like. While Gap has done a tremendous job in eliminating barriers for women in the workplace, other minority groups need to be considered in future policy decisions. Specifically, conversations about the gender pay gap should also recognize that certain minorities, particularly Hispanic and African Americans, make much less. Outside of racial factors, the future workforce is going to encompass a wide range of individuals, and Gap must embrace everyone, regardless of gender identity, race, nationality, age, marital status, sexual orientation, disability, religion, and socioeconomic background. When it comes to short-term recommendations, Gap must stop describing its current culture as having traditionally feminine leadership characteristics. The current culture surrounding collaboration, teamwork, values, and friendly exchanges should be regarded as gender-neutral characteristics to ensure equality be maintained. Stereotyping characteristics to reflect one gender more than another feeds into the unconscious bias about gender norms in the workplace that leads to the gender pay gap. Gap Inc. should also start publishing specific pay ranges on the company's internet site so that employees have unlimited access to this information. As of now, Gap Inc. only publishes the company's compensation practices for employee viewing, and hiding these specific pay ranges from employees can cause a disconnect between high-level and low-level employees. Employees, specifically women, will not trust Gap Inc.'s pay practices when specific pay ranges are hidden from them. Additionally, Gap should require that all managers in every department implement Bobby Silton's 3-tier escalation policy. This policy enables employees who are out of the office to enjoy their time without having to constantly check their devices. This can help parents, specifically mothers, balance work-life responsibilities without feeling overly stressed and burnt out. In turn, working mothers at Gap will feel less pressure to switch to part-time positions that contribute to the gender wage gap. Now more than ever, it's also important that Gap eliminate technology's effect on blurred work-home boundaries. They can do so by mandating a company-wide policy that states any communication made after 8 p.m. Monday through Friday does not have to be answered until after 8 a.m. the following workday. This policy should also cover that communications made on the weekend do not have to be answered until 8 a.m. on Monday. Advances have encouraged consistent connection, and many organizations expect their employees to be available 24/7. This policy will ensure that working mothers are not discriminated against for not answering messages immediately and ensure that they are less likely to switch to part-time positions in the future. In terms of long-term recommendations, Gap needs to ensure that 50% of the board of directors is made up of women. Female employees will not view the workplace as gender equal until at least half the board has female representation on it. Additionally, to start gearing the workplace for future success in diversity and inclusion, the board should strive to at least have 25% of members from other minority groups of various races, religions, sexual orientations, and so on be represented on the board as well. Additionally, Gap needs to create a mentorship and sponsorship program for women to ensure female hires have the resources they need to succeed long term. Upon a hire, employees can fill out a survey describing their hobbies, their work ethic, and even their future career goals at Gap. And employees can be matched with sponsors and mentors who have similar values as them. The current system at Gap requires that mentors and sponsors seek out proteges on their own. However, this program will ensure that every single female hire has a role model, increasing the likelihood that they rise in the ranks at Gap. Additionally, Gap can use the same model to create a mentorship and sponsorship program for people of color or other people in diverse minority groups. Gap should also consider implementing a free childcare center to eliminate the stress that working mothers feel. While Gap does offer several resources already to help mothers find affordable caretaking facilities, these resources are not as free and as easy as Gap can make them. Going the extra mile to provide free care facilities on Gap Inc.'s property will make working mothers feel even more valued and dedicated to Gap than ever before. Additionally, Patagonia has found so much success in implementing an on-campus childcare, and 100% of working moms have returned to Patagonia over the past 5 years. Gap Inc. could even benefit from on-site childcare through tax benefits, increased employee engagement, and employee retention. Lastly, all Gap employees, including those in both level and high-level positions, should partake in a training module on the business face of the future. This extensive training course will teach employees the importance of inclusivity and eliminating discrimination of any kind in the workplace. Hiring a team of diverse panelists, Gap can educate employees on implicit and unconscious biases that can hinder advancement of Gap becoming a progressive workplace in the future. This training can include a session on unconscious biases towards parents taking extended maternal-paternal leave, ensuring that managers understand the importance of taking this time off and not judging employees for it. This training will also cover minority bias faced in the workplace so that employees understand equal treatment practices extend to not only in females but other groups as well.